What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of OctoChat. My name is Michael Levan, and I'm here with Derek. Derek, what's going on, man?
Not much. It's Friday afternoon in Scotland. So after this, I'm done for the day. But
Nice.
good news. Just before this, I've just passed an Azure exam. I'm now past the AZ 303. So that's the technologies part. So that was cool. And I've got another one tomorrow. Actually, I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm kind of going for it, but yeah, I've actually got quite a few lined up this month. I've got 4 in total, but that's the first one done. I won't lie, I've got a bit of a sore head. It was interesting to say the least, but
Yeah,
no, obviously really happy I passed.
nice, man.
But yeah, I've got they'll be studying tonight and then studying tomorrow and then tomorrow midday or thereabouts. I've got the AZ 304, which is the design aspect of being an Azure architect. So obviously, I'm really happy I passed that. But if you get any bits, and obviously, well, actually, just one thing. If you, I post quite a lot about bits and bobs. So if you do want to follow me on Twitter, I'm DevOps Derek. Obviously, as you can see down. Wait a minute. No, I always get this wrong. There we go. To Derek Campbell. But yeah, just obviously, if you want any questions, just get in touch. But yeah,
Nice.
no, what about yourself?
No, no, that's awesome, man. So the before I jump into myself, I had definitely have a few questions about that cert. Because as you know, we talk about this a lot, where I have these thoughts about getting certifications, and then I'm like, nah, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should, and then I'm like, nah, I don't know. So the first thing, like, so the 303, that's the new version of the architect test, right?
Yeah, before there used to be the 300.
Right.
So the 303 is the new version of the 300. So the 303 has only just recently came out of beta. I think it was at the end of August. So I don't think a lot of people are doing them. What it did mean though is it meant things like test questions and stuff like that
Sure.
were quite hard to come by.
Right.
So I kind of there's lots of studying, but yeah, so it's just a new version because what they're now doing is they update them. I think it's every 12 to 24 months,
Mhm.
depending on the exam. So yeah, no, it's that one, and then the new one tomorrow is there used to be the 301. There's now the 304. I
Uh,
think this because it's funny because I remember looking like what happened to the 302? Don't they like 302s? I think that's the upgrade exam. So if you
uh,
had a previous architect exam, you can set a single. It's kind of I've been at MCSA in the past, a bunch of stuff. I've done a bunch of Microsoft certifications, so like that. Instead of just having the same one, it's just based on an OS. What they do now is they just like in 2 years' time that my today's exam will expire, and then I'll go on and have to redo. It'll probably be the 305 or the 306 and the 307 at that point. Then
Right, right. No, that's awesome, man. Nice. So the two tests, the one that you took today,
just the
definitely,
one test.
yeah. So I know you were telling me that this was more of like a technical one. And then, so I'm assuming tomorrow, from the design perspective, is the design one more theoretical, or is it still technical as well?
It's still technical, but it's more like in line with like design principles, but it's still using the same technologies.
Right.
So it's not like you focus on a particular technology and then change. It's like think about it as like from like so architect is quite micro level details about SKUs versus like hey does this VNet connect to this VNet, etc.
Sure.
Whereas design is very high level. It's more about, hey, we've got this business problem that we need to fix. So you come in and they've got like maybe a solution, and then you run through that.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, you know what? It sounds very much like the AZ 400 almost, because the AZ 400, it's very focused on like design patterns and stuff. Like if you look at all the domains, it's like design this, design that, and then obviously like sub modules and stuff on what exactly you would have to end up designing. Um, but yeah, it sounds like very much the same thing, which is interesting. I mean, I think that's both aspects are important, especially for like an architect level cert. So it definitely makes sense to have both. That's cool, man. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And then one more question around that. So obviously, without like whatever the rules are about what you can talk about and what you can't, without going into any of those, can you tell us a few of the technologies that you saw on the exam?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, I need to be careful.
Mm,
There's an NDA in
yeah.
place, so you're not allowed to talk about, the questions, etc. But
Yes. Yeah.
it's pretty much everything, to be honest. If it's on Azure, then it can be in the exam. Like, so storage, compute, networking, VPNs. Obviously, that falls under that. But like express routes, uh, Azure Front Door, that's like a load balance type technologies, and then all about the kind of networking stack, backups, migration onto Azure. Um, it's to be honest, it's probably easier to ask what is not in the exam, and that's probably like AWS.
Wow,
Um,
that's crazy,
but
man. It sounds like a
yeah,
lot of stuff. Wow.
it's,
Oof.
it was fun. Don't get me wrong. I've got a bit of a sore head
Yeah.
because literally, I mean, I literally passed it like an hour ago.
Yeah.
Um, so I won't lie, like I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and then after that, I will actually be able to start my weekend. But
Right.
it was a great experience. I mean, it was challenging. Obviously, I'd done it from home. I've done it in the test center before, and to be honest, I much prefer it from home. It's just for me personally, it's just a nice experience. So I mean, I've done it in the exam, and to be honest, things like you go in and when I've done it in the test centre, this I don't get me wrong, this was about 8 years ago.
Mhm.
I'd done the MCSA
Mm.
on 2012, and I went in to I'd done a few, and to be honest, it's so hit and miss with test centres because some of them can be quite grim. Because like I started my Microsoft certifications back in 2007.
Mhm.
Obviously, you can kind of tell how the impact I had here back then. I know I make that joke a lot, but I mean, I'm going to stick to it because people keep laughing. So yeah, so like that, you go in and it's like these 15-inch kind of old school CRT monitors. Kind of
Right.
smells a bit funky, like that. So it's like that. Whereas I've got obviously this is my we work from home. So like this is my office, and then I've got another bedroom which is a gym. I say a gym, it's where I walk past and look at my gym equipment. It's not as you can see it. I've got a body. I'm built for comfort, not speed. So yeah, it's like that. So I've got a desk in there. Because that's one of the things. Just to give you some tips, you will need a quiet area. You'll need something where no one comes in. If someone comes into the room accidentally,
That's it,
instant
right?
fail.
Yeah.
It's killed. It's like you can't speak out loud. So not even like muttering under your breath, because I think what it is another person could be in another room, and you could be like, "What is this and that and this?" And you could read it out, and then they'd be like, like tap one or whatever, for like tap one's for
Yeah.
B, A, etc. Don't get me wrong, like what I did do though, in the middle of the exam, my Wi-Fi just dropped off, and I was like, ah. So I was slightly concerned about that. But what happened was, it came back online. I had to actually get my partner to restart the Wi-Fi run. It came back up. So the application that you're running does actually accommodate that, which is quite good.
Yep.
And obviously you talk to people, but like that, you have to, like, for instance, what normally happens is you go into the Microsoft certification dashboard, you click, start exam. There's a system test. So you download an application, you run it. It
Mhm.
checks your bandwidth. It checks that you've got a camera, because obviously you need to see my pretty face, and then obviously a microphone, etc., so that they can hear everything as well. And then
Right.
someone is actually watching you as you're going through the exam. But like that, um, definitely run the system test the day before, and don't do what I done before. Run Windows updates like an hour before, because sometimes that doesn't work. And equipment wise, right? Like for instance, I mean, obviously I've told everybody about my new shiny Dell XPS 15-inch i9, 64 gig of RAM, dual terabyte SSD, dual terabyte SSD. I just want to repeat that. Anyway, so what happens is with that, you can't have an external screen, right? So I don't want to sit it on a 15-inch screen. So what I'd done was I've got a little Dell Alpha Alienware, sorry, an Alienware Alpha. So it's like a little tiny i7 box with, again, SSD. I actually use that because you have to use with the laptop, you have to use the built-in screen. You can't have an external screen. Obviously,
Um,
a little desktop doesn't have an external screen. So I'm not using these ones, but I've got a 23-inch ultra wide as well. To be honest, my wife normally uses that office. So like that, I did unfortunately I had to bounce her downstairs because she can't even walk past the room. Like
right.
if she went to go to the toilet, and she's pregnant just now, which so that means she's at the toilet about every 3 minutes. So like that, yeah. If you are like, and dogs as well, keep, you have to keep them locked away. I've got two dogs,
Yeah,
as you know.
yeah.
So like that, keep them locked away. Um, so yeah, but no, it was a great experience. I'm ready to go again tomorrow. But yeah, some cool stuff there.
Well, surely your dogs will give you the answer if they walk by, so that makes sense to me.
Well, that's
Um,
it. I mean, one of them is one prefers AWS though. So one of the dogs is always giving me nonsense about how Azure's rubbish. And then the other one's like, no, we're Microsoft fanboys. But no, um, yeah, it's like Paul, could you imagine a test center for a dog? The problem is they would just pick the answer that gave them the treat. But hell, they would do that so well.
oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know how I would do the test, man, because you guys could see back there, my puppy's just always sleeping on my office couch. So I would be like, guys, you gotta let her stay in here. If I don't, she's gonna be at the door freaking out. So
Oh yeah,
you know,
that
it's funny. I remember I was listening to a podcast by Mike Pfeiffer, and he owns Cloud Skills IO,
yep.
and he was telling me that like I don't know if it was recently or not, but so he has like a sleeve, like a tattoo, it goes all the way. And he I guess like he like stood up to show them that like he didn't have anything, and he had his sleeve like halfway rolled up, and they're like, "What's that on your arm?" He's like, "It's a tattoo."
There you go. What I would say is if Cloud Skills is awesome. I've
Yeah.
got that. If you're looking for content, I use Microsoft Learn. I've got access to Pluralsight, which I've used in the past. I didn't use it this time.
Mhm.
But Cloud Skills and Skylines Academy. I know you've actually got a course on Skylines as well,
I got
which
I got content on Cloud Skills as well, actually.
yeah,
Mm.
I'm going to check that out because it's funny because it was really great content. I like doing two different platforms.
Yeah,
And the cloud skill stuff was great. And shout out to Nick Collier
yeah.
at Skylines as well. That was fantastic.
This stuff is
Both really
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, both really good. And there is, Pluralsight has stuff. I don't think it, do you know what? I'm not sure if it actually had. That's maybe why I didn't do Pluralsight. But and exams wise, WizLabs, I've got Measure Up, but I don't like Measure Up. I bought them and
Yeah.
they're super hard.
Yeah.
Like it really, I mean, the good thing with Measure Up is you get an exam guarantee. So if you don't pass, then they pay for the exam. However, it's very
Interesting.
expensive,
Yeah.
very very expensive. And what I found was the exams, like they're so much harder than the real exam.
Right.
And I done it with the AZ 103, the admin one, and to be honest, it blew my confidence. It just completely wiped me out, and I was getting like 50%. I was like, oh no! And then on the actual exam, I passed with flying colours. But I mean, I think it's more just to be absolutely certain that you're going to
Right.
pass.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan there.
You know what? Yeah, I do like the fact that if they're pretty much saying that if you don't pass, we will pay for your exam. Like that's
Yeah,
pretty cool, man. That's a good one. I mean, but I don't know if the ends justify the means though. I don't know how much it is, but if it's like $1,000 or something, then it probably isn't worth it, especially for like $165 exam.
yeah, they do multiple deals. Like I went and got the AZ 103, the 300,
Mhm.
301 at the time, and the 500, and
Mhm.
then maybe the 400 as well, because that's what I want to do long term.
Sure.
But what I think it was something like £250, which is quite a lot. Whereas WizLabs per exam was like £12.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So big difference.
Right, right.
But I mean, to be honest, obviously the certification is great. I'm really happy about that. You know, obviously I want the architect or cloud architect or solution architect one.
Sure.
But it's all about that journey. It's about learning. You know, that's it. Ultimately, I just want to learn new stuff.
Yeah.
Um, that's where it was really great. Is like I learned a bunch about Azure Front Door. I'd never used it.
Yeah.
The thing is we use. I'd imagine you're fairly similar. You use that core compute service. You know, you're using compute virtual machines, Azure Web Apps,
Yep.
um, and whatnot. And we do a lot of proof of concepts. So to be honest, I've used backups like the Azure Backup, but like that, it was with Azure Backup. The last time I used it properly was about 4 years ago,
Right.
and it's really came on because obviously we do more proof of concepts. We do
Right.
it's more about deployment. So I'm not backing stuff up that much. So there's all that sort of. It's about the edge stuff,
Yeah.
um, which is really interesting.
Nice, man. Yeah, you know what? The one, sir, if one day if I do decide I'm like, you know what, I want to start going for some certifications. I really, really want to do the AZ204. Um, the AZ204 is like real weird. It's not weird, but I'm gonna bring up my screen here. Share this. Okay. So here's the thing. Now, everybody knows that I love Microsoft and I love Azure. That's my preference. I love AWS as well, but I always just gear towards Azure stuff. So here's the thing. Let's go to the exam guide. So this is the old one, right? So it's been updated since. I actually think this might be the newest, but let's just yeah, that one's the newest. Um, but this is like, for example, these are the little things that I don't like. So, in addition, the role should have ability. In addition, the role should have ability programming and a language supported by Azure and proficiency in Azure SDKs. Okay, pretty much every language, all the popular languages has an Azure SDK. Go, Python, TypeScript, JavaScript, C Sharp. Which one? Now, the assumption is C sharp because C
Yeah,
sharp. Um, but you don't know, I know somebody that did some like practice, or they wrote up some practice exams on one of the tests, and or I mean on one of the books for the tests, and a few of them had like node stuff in there, and I'm like, so how do you know which one to choose? Like I mean, I could if I looked at the C sharp stuff, I could get by, but like I never really properly like developed in C sharp. It's always been PowerShell, Python, now Go. So that's my thing. My first thing is like I have no idea what I'm supposed to be studying here. Now, the interesting thing is that they added these in Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI. Now, previously, when the AZ204 first came out and the AZ203, this wasn't listed, and that's why like everything in red is the new stuff. So
right.
it's interesting now. So I'm curious. They before it was just an Azure SDK, so now an Azure SDK, but now they're saying like no an Azure SDK and no Azure PowerShell and no Azure Cloud, which is fine. I've worked in both of those proficiently, but I still don't know what this means. And that's like one of the things that I've
Can you
noticed.
zoom in a little bit?
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry. Um, so this is like one of the things that I've noticed on Microsoft exams. And I did a course on Skylines Academy and taught the DP 900, the Azure Data Fundamentals one,
Yeah,
and it was the same thing. Like it was so high level. Same thing with the new AZ 400 when they redid it. Like a lot of the trainers that I spoke to, I don't want to mention any names, but some like bigger names. They're all like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know which direction I'm supposed to be going in with my content. So one of the things like I would say that's always been the thing that's turned me off about like some of these exams is the fact that I'm not 100% sure what I'm supposed to be studying. The other thing too, the thing that turns me off is I feel like they change all the time. So what I'm scared about is like studying for an exam and then like a month in, then being like, oh, it's changing, and I'm like, yep, all right. That's always been the issue for me. But
They normally get yeah, they normally give you pretty decent amount of heads up.
yeah,
Like like that one there, the 204, it kind of says that the change happened on like May, so you tend to get quite a lot of time.
right,
Because that's it. Don't get me wrong, I mean that's the thing though. These things don't. This isn't something I started last week. Like I've
yeah,
been doing this since. Actually, I think I started doing this when we started this stream, and that's actually just one thing to be. We're now over 2 months. I
right,
think it was August 4th or something. So
mhm,
we're actually now kind of first 2 months.
right,
But yeah, it does change, but it's something just to be aware of. Keep an eye on it. It's something I check. And to be honest, like that's the reason why with exams when there's two, that's the reason why I'm doing both back to back, because I can do it all tonight, today and tomorrow, because the learning is actually very similar. It's just where you're looking at the solution.
right,
So yeah, the one thing I would say is they do get updated, and I think like 30% of it changes or thereabouts.
right,
Um, but like that, the thing is, though, I'm a big fan of certification. It's
right,
more about the journey for me.
true,
But at the same time, the certification helps because I'm going for four this. I'm going to do my architect. I'm going to be using your DP 900
mhm,
on Skylines.
nice,
I've got the DP 900, and then the AI 900. Those are just something I wanted to do because
sure,
I'm now a Microsoft certified trainer as well.
nice, yep, that's
The,
awesome,
and,
man.
and the good thing about the Microsoft certified trainer is you get a 75% discount on the exams. Uh,
Damn,
I
wow,
didn't actually get the discount because I only got MCT last month, so I did already
right,
bought and paid for the exams, but the other ones I did. So there was a reason why I went for MCT. It's cheaper.
right.
But yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really
That's
cool.
awesome, man. Nice. Yeah, no, I think that if I take a certification, it'll definitely be this one. I really like the different options that it has. The other thing too is like I think this like kind of generalizes what Azure thinks that a cloud developer should look like. So you should have some IaaS experience. Like you should be able to create a few things like VMs and spin up some Docker environments and stuff. App services, obviously, serverless is a really big thing. You got app services and Azure Functions. You got some Cosmos DB stuff, which definitely makes sense if you're in the NoSQL game. Blob storage stuff, and then you have like troubleshooting and optimization, connecting to third parties, which is obviously really really important from an API perspective. So it definitely has some really cool stuff, and I think if anything like this would be the one that I would go for. I just if anybody from Microsoft ever watches this, just please just tell me what this means, so I know which direction to go in.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Oh man, yeah. So you know what? Actually, the one
Oh,
thing that I did want to bring up, speaking of, so you look at like that Azure developer certification, and then you look at like kind of the way that things are kind of heading. This is actually something that I've been working on a lot this week. And I'm also like in contact with a few of the engineers from Pulumi and stuff. Everybody's like super, super cool over there. So this is like a really interesting concept. If you haven't heard of it already. So Pulumi is so we all know like infrastructure as code. Think about this now as infrastructure as software. So essentially, what happens is instead of having to go and learn like ARM template syntax or CloudFormation templates or Terraform or Ansible or Chef or like whatever else, what you can do is you can take a general purpose language that you already know, so Python, Go, C Sharp, TypeScript, Node, whatever. You can take that and you can code your infrastructure or cloud services, probably more towards cloud services now, more or less. But you can take those languages and you can like code them just normally as you would, and then deploy them, with Octopus, and you can use Deployme. and stuff like that for the actual state. Now the biggest thing here is like it actually stores that state. Um, so if you look at libraries like maybe Boto 3, which is a really popular one for Python, it's the Python AWS SDK. So you can interact with any AWS service using Boto 3, which you write it in Python. So you could kind of always do this concept, like you've been able to do this for years. The biggest thing was why people didn't do it is because the state wasn't stored. So what your state is it's essentially your definition of your resources. So if you got, a virtual machine that has 8 gigs of RAM and 100 gig hard disk, that's the state. That's the metadata of what that environment looks like and what's installed on it and all that stuff. So you never had a state before when you have things like Boto 3. But now with something like Pulumi, you do. You can store a state. And there's other companies that are jumping on board. Like, for example, HashiCorp is jumping on board. They have a CDK, which is their cloud development kit. I think that's what it stands for. Cloud development kit. So it's funny, right? Like you see HashiCorp is now jumping on board with this. And they have arguably the most popular infrastructure as code platform out there right now, Terraform, but they're even jumping on board. AWS CDK, they're jumping on board as well. And this is the same thing. So this is like the same thing as Pulumi. The only difference is that this is just for AWS, for example. So I think this is where we're heading, honestly. I'm making a bet on the fact that it's not going to happen tomorrow. Maybe it won't happen in a year, but eventually what's going to end up happening is instead of having to learn Terraform and Ansible and all of these things, you're just going to have the ability to sit, and you already have this ability. I'm saying like this is going to be the number one pick over infrastructure as code. You're then going to have the ability to take PowerShell or Python or whatever and define your infrastructure that way, versus having to learn something completely new.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, to be honest, I love the fact it's like you don't have to do, take a step even back. Like, not only Terraform, obviously with HCL, it's very readable. But like for instance, you can write this in any language you want. Like it does, I think it does PowerShell. Obviously, so you can pretty much whatever you're comfortable with. I think that's such a cool idea
Yeah.
because everything else I know, always basically you have to learn the language, right?
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
so it's that learning, and not only it's just you, but it's also then your colleagues. There can be hundreds of people doing this,
Yep.
like that. You have to standardize stuff. Whereas I like the idea of just whatever you're familiar with, go for it, rather
Right.
than having to learn everything from scratch again. You can just go and then use infrastructure as code, and
Yep.
then do your infrastructure deployments, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, it's wild, man. I mean, and like I said, it's literally just like normal standard Python code or Go or whatever. So for example, if I go into here, like I created for Go, like a resource group,
Yeah,
and then as you can see, like it's just Go code. I mean, the only difference here is that you're using the Pulumi SDK over the Azure SDK. It's literally it, but it's the same type of code. If we go to like have a new sample here, because I'm working on some new content for Pulumi and Python. So if I go here and I go to my main, right, same thing. Like it's just Python code. The only difference is again you're using some Pulumi SDK over the Azure SDK, for example. But this, for example, creates a Kubernetes cluster for you, or an AKS cluster rather. So yeah,
awesome.
man, it's interesting. I definitely think this is the way that the industry may be going in, because it makes sense. It honestly makes sense.
Yeah, because it's interesting. I saw recently that Progress bought Chef, which was kind of triggered a little bit of interest there as well, because
Yep.
to see how that kind of that happens.
Right.
Um, and I noticed that you said go, and what I was thinking, I forgot about something.
It's not a big- This is
So
just the running
yeah,
at this point.
yeah, but yeah. So what have you been up to this week anyway, Michael?
Oh man, you know what? I have been. Let me stop sharing here. I have just honestly been doing a ton of Pulumi content. I did a ton of Pulumi stuff. I did Pulumi stuff with Go and Octopus. I did Pulumi stuff with Python and Octopus. Just been like really, really diving deep into Pulumi. Pulumi also had their cloud engineering summit this week. So I've
Right.
been watching a ton of that, and there's just been like some really, really solid talks on there. I enjoyed pretty much every single one that I watched. It was awesome. So that was really cool. The other thing too is that started working on the Will It Deploy series. So we're just kind of still figuring out like which direction we want to go in with that and stuff. But essentially, the Will It Deploy series, what it'll be is it'll be just like Octopus, right? Like where your CI server leaves off and where your continuous deployments and continuous deliveries pick up.
Yep.
Everything from that point will be shown on Will It Deploy. So we'll have things like, I have one that I want to do for a Python web app to deploy to Azure App Services, for example. Things going to Kubernetes, things going to Docker for deployments. So a bunch of really, really cool stuff. So yeah, just
Nice.
working on that, and still pushing for the Terraform provider where we're pretty much right there. I'll actually be presenting on something that we do internally called the TLDR, where we meet up every few weeks and we see some like presentations done from the teams. So I'll be presenting on that next week, just showing off the Terraform provider a little bit and doing some examples and all that. So yeah, we're pretty much right there in terms of the Terraform provider going to beta. So just crossing a few T's and dotting a few I's at this point.
Wait a minute. 2 seconds. I need to update.
Yep.
I need to update something. Um,
Let's see the new banner. So there you go.
so yeah, no, that's awesome news. I think that I'm really looking forward to that. But no, that sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to the TLDR next week. You got some talks as well coming up, don't you? I believe you've got some
Winner,
Microsoft talk in WinOps on the 5th.
right? Yep. Yep.
Awesome.
So I'm yeah, this is this is what I've been calling my month of Kubernetes because I'm doing 4 talks, one every Monday. I did one last week. I'm doing one this coming Monday, and then 2 Mondays after that for Cloud Lunch and Learn. They're in
Right.
conjunction with like Microsoft and the Azure Cloud family and stuff like that. So I'm doing some AKS talks for them. That's a month of Kubernetes. I'm creating a new Kubernetes course on Skylines Academy. So it's been a lot of Kubernetes this month. I missed it because I haven't really touched Kubernetes in like probably almost a half a year. I mean, like I've touched it, but not like in fine detail, like I am doing again. And I personally love Kubernetes, so it's really cool to be back in that saddle. So which is nice. So yeah, so I'm doing those talks, and then WinOps Lite. WinOps Lite again will be Octopus deploying Kubernetes. So actually, maybe it'll be a month and a half to 2 months of Kubernetes, which is going to be fun. So yeah,
Nice, nice. Well,
yeah,
I've spoke at the last two WinOps. You'll love it. Do you know? Honestly, it's funny. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite events. I've been down the last two.
yeah.
Um, honestly, really good bunch of folk. It's a shame it is virtual, but obviously COVID.
Right,
Uh, it's
right.
just one of those things.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm hoping hopefully next year, man. I mean, we'll see. Hoping, maybe not 2021, but hopefully end of 2021, 2022, we'll be able to get out to some actual like live conferences. Because I think the virtual conferences are cool. I don't have a problem with them. I think just the biggest thing is like you miss the experience, you know what I mean? Just like not even the experience of the learning, just like, the people that you talk to pretty much daily over the web, you're in person with them and you guys can grab beers and stuff and all that, and you get to pick up cool shirts and talk to new people, and it's like that community vibe aspect of it that you miss in the virtual stuff.
definitely. I think I agree with that because that's the thing that obviously I used to do. I used to go to a lot of events. Like
Right.
it was like I do talks like much like yourself. Like it's funny because like last year I think I spoke in 11 different cities or something along those lines. But yeah, so obviously, it is interesting. You know, I miss the people. I do miss the people because everybody's dead excited.
Yep.
And the speaker dinners are always nice as well. You know,
Yep.
free food and free beer, and wine and whatnot is always nice. But no, the WinOps, if you do check that out, just check out Google WinOps, check that out.
Nice.
Um, and it'll be, I think it's a free event. It's actually an Octopus sponsored event as well, so I think it's a free
Yes.
event to attend.
Yeah.
So obviously, by all means, get in touch and sign up for that. That's it. It's based in London, but obviously it's in the afternoon, so people from the US can attend as well. Obviously,
Yeah.
you know, you're American, so you're attending. So yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. It's this week I've actually been on QRF. Obviously, I'm part of the Octopus advisory team, previously known as customer success. But what that means is we've got a few channels. Obviously, you can talk to us on Slack. So, like Octopus has a community Slack. If you go to octopus.com/Slack, you can sign in for free. So there's chatting with people on Slack. There's advice tickets. So if you did ever want to find out how to do X with Octopus, you can email advice@octopus.com. And then we also have help.octopus.com. So you can post questions on there. So there's been lots of cool stuff. There's been chats about runbooks, how to do scheduled tasks. I'm a big fan of runbooks. Just to almost, instead of actually doing a scheduled task, I use runbooks, right? So this has come up a few times this week actually. I use
Right.
runbooks is the main thing I like it because one of those things that it's always been a little bit annoying, right? Is scheduled tasks execute on the server, but to get access to see, it's like how I've been there in the past where say it's a backup or something along those lines that doesn't execute. You generally don't find out until it's much, it's after much too late. Like for instance, something's not been backing up for a couple of months. You don't, you may not monitor that accidentally. Whereas runbooks, you can use that in a centralized location. So there's been a bit of that. So that's been. I enjoy QRF.
Yep.
We work in 8-week cycles normally, and you spend 2 weeks on QRF, the Quick Reaction Force.
Right.
Yeah, so that's been cool. Obviously, the in between that, I've been prepping for my exam as well.
Nice.
And there's some cool blogs actually out this week. For
Yes.
the security researchers amongst us, we have now opened our bug bounty program. We've actually something just to be we've had a bug bounty program for a while now. It's been by invite only, but to give you an idea, we've been helped roughly by 883 researchers. And that's been in the last, I think it's the last 18 months. We kicked that off in Q2 2019. So it's not something we've been telling a lot of people about. Obviously, security at Octopus is actually something we treat very, it's like number one. You don't have a secure product, you don't have a product really.
Yep.
So like that, we have had most of them have been lower informational. We don't track informational, but it's just something to be aware of. You can check that out.
Yep.
And we've actually rewarded over $16,000 in that time, which is really good. I think there's been a couple critical ones, but that's something that was resolved very quickly. It wasn't, I believe it wasn't actually the product, it was a license key manipulation. That has now been resolved. I can't
Hmm.
go into that too much. I'm actually part of the security school here, so I've been sitting on this for a little while. So yeah, you can join our bug bounty program. Obviously, just make sure you're aware of the scope. Don't go out of scope, please. Is obviously it is limited to a dedicated security testing environment. So we have something there, so you actually see that on BC, which is short for bugground. .octopus.com. Don't try and hack our website. That's not in scope, and it's not full, man. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's something we've now got a VP of Director of Trust and Security, Jim Burger, who has been doing awesome. So he's been in that role for about 6 months now. So that's really cool. And we've paid out some really nice bounties. So that's been super cool.
Nice.
Big. We've also released Linux dynamic workers as well. So you can before in the past, all of our cloud workers were server 2016. So running bash scripts on servers that you can't control has been a little bit difficult. So the big ta-da is on that. We now have Linux worker pools on Octopus Cloud, which is really cool. However, we also now will have Server 2019 as well. That is something that's still being rolled out, but you can now use Ubuntu 18.04 and the Workers 2019. Absolutely awesome, and also it now means Docker is now pre-installed.
Yep.
Because obviously, when you spin a task up and it's running on a worker on Octopus Cloud, it comes with predetermined software.
Sure.
Think Terraform, AZ, CLI, etc. So that's really cool. Obviously, that kind of ties in with execution containers and whatnot. There's some cool stuff we're doing there. I know Bob's been working on some more containers as well. That's something. Check out Octopus Deploy Labs. That's something that we've been doing this week.
Okay.
There will be more information very, very soon.
Awesome.
Lastly, there is one from Matt Casperson about the Spring environment configuration. I'm not gonna lie, this is Matt is one of the smartest people I've ever met. So if you're doing Spring deployments, then definitely check it out, because honestly, like what Matt, I think, right, that Matt probably has forgotten more than I'll ever know. Which is it's a bit crazy, but yeah, it's a really cool one. So let's definitely check that out if you're in the Java world.
Very cool.
And then lastly, a bit of a dual one actually. 2020.4, that is now generally available. Just something to be aware of. Some really cool updates, structured variables. So there's enhanced bits for Java, etc., environment files, YAML, XML, and whatnot.
Nice.
Which is really cool. And also next week, we have another webinar. Obviously, love my webinars. I'm not on this one, actually taking a bit of a break. Ryan Russo, who normally joins us, it's going to be him and Adam Close talking 2020.4. Check it out. If you go to octopus.com/events, you can sign up. And just one thing to be aware of, if you're in the US, we have a US one this time and also a UK one. So there is two different times to be aware of. So just keep an eye on that. And I know, and Ryan unfortunately couldn't join us this week due to a commitment elsewhere, and he's actually got a cool Ask Octopus video about how to copy a project. Look at that big handsome face.
I know, yeah, he's not here, but like he's kind of here. He's
Hi Ryan.
He's
Hi
very
Ryan.
quiet right now, and he's shocked about something.
But yeah, so yeah, and obviously that's something that can be done. So definitely check that out. So it's been a bit of a busy week, to be honest, in between QRF, some of the feature requests. There's been some customer calls. So no, it's been a very good week. But I won't lie, after tomorrow's exam, I think I'm going to just not touch anything that's got a current in it. I think I may go for a nap. But that's pretty much about it. But yeah, really excited about the public bounty bug bounty program. I think that can only be a good thing. That can only be a good thing. You know, ultimately, security. You know, with Octopus, the product is very secure, but we take security very seriously, and it's something that we're going to be doing more in the public going forward.
Yeah, and if you are interested in it, you know, if you don't have any other motivation besides the fact that you're helping everybody, you could get a reward. So
it's always nice. It's like, I won't lie, when I saw some of the bounties, I was like, oh wait a minute, I was like, this doesn't sound too bad. Apparently, I'm not allowed. But apparently being an employee means I'm not allowed to participate in that. But no, honestly, definitely check it out if that's something that you're interested in. I think it's really cool.
Yep. Nice, man. All right. Well, with that, if you don't have anything else, we will let you get to your beer and your nap, because you've clearly had a rough day with your test. And you have another rough day tomorrow.
I've got more. I'll probably be doing some studying, unfortunately. But honestly, thank you very much, Michael. But as always, sir, it's been a pleasure. But take it easy, everybody.
Take care.